You're not lazy. I know it doesn't feel that way, especially at 11 at night, staring at the one task you swore you'd finish today, the same task you've quietly moved to tomorrow's list 4 days in a row. But here's something psychologists have understood for years and almost nobody talks about. Procrastination has almost nothing to do with laziness, and it has almost nothing to do with time management either. Think about it. A lazy person doesn't want to do the thing. You do. That's the whole problem. You want to write the essay, send the email, start the workout, and you still don't. You sit down, you feel a flicker of resistance, and somehow you're scrolling again. That gap between wanting to act and not acting is what procrastination actually is. And the reason it exists is buried in how your brain handles one specific thing: feelings. Researchers like Dr. Fuchsia Siros and Dr. Timothy Pitchell have spent decades studying this, and their conclusion is surprisingly simple. Procrastination is not a time management problem. It's an emotion management problem. Here's what they mean. Every task you avoid is quietly attached to an uncomfortable feeling. Maybe the report makes you anxious because you're afraid it won't be good enough. Maybe the assignment is boring and boredom feels unbearable. Maybe the project is so big that you feel overwhelmed before you even begin. The task itself isn't the enemy. The feeling it triggers is. And your brain hates that feeling. So it does what brains are built to do. It makes the discomfort go away. And the fastest way to feel better right now is simple. Don't do the task. The second you switch to your phone, the anxiety drops. The boredom lifts. You feel relief. And that relief is the trap. Because your brain just learned something. Avoiding this task makes me feel good. Do that enough times, and avoidance becomes automatic. A reflex you don't even notice anymore. This is why willpower advice so often fails. People tell you to try harder, make a better schedule, buy a new planner. But you cannot schedule your way out of a feeling. If the real reason you're avoiding the task is fear, or self-doubt, or overwhelm, a color-coded calendar doesn't touch any of that. You'll just feel guilty staring at a beautiful plan you're not following. It helps to picture what's happening inside your head as a kind of tug-of-war. On one side is the older, emotional part of your brain, the part that wants to feel good immediately and does not care about consequences. On the other side is the planner, the part trying to think about next week, next month, the deadline that's coming whether you like it or not. When you're calm and rested, the planner usually wins. But the moment a task makes you feel something unpleasant, the emotional side grabs the rope, and it is much, much stronger than we like to admit. And this isn't some rare glitch in a few unlucky people. Researcher Piers Steele, who reviewed hundreds of studies on procrastination, estimates that around 1 in 5 adults is a chronic procrastinator. Not someone who occasionally delays, but someone who's putting things off regularly damages their work, their goals, their life. If that's you, you're not broken, and you're definitely not alone. You're just running a very normal piece of human wiring that was never designed for deadlines, inboxes, and 12 open tabs. So if procrastination is just your brain protecting you from a bad feeling, why does it so often feel terrible afterward? Because here's the cruel twist. The relief never lasts. You avoid the task, you feel better for an hour, and then the deadline creeps closer. And now you don't just have the original task, you have guilt and shame stacked on top of it. And those feelings are uncomfortable too. So what does your brain do with that new discomfort? The same thing it always does. It avoids, which means you procrastinate even more. That's the procrastination spiral. The worse you feel about putting it off, the more you put it off. This is also why procrastination quietly costs you far more than a missed deadline. Dr. Sirois's research has linked chronic procrastination to higher stress, more anxiety, and even worse physical health over time, because all that delayed stress doesn't disappear. It just waits for you. Procrastination isn't free. You pay for it later, with interest. Part of the problem is that the future simply doesn't feel real. Psychologist Hal Hershfield ran brain scans while people imagined themselves in the future, and found something strange. When you picture your future self, your brain lights up almost the same way it does when you think about a complete stranger. To your brain, future you, the one who has to stay up all night finishing this, is basically someone else's problem. That's why it's so easy to hand the work to them. They don't quite feel like you. Yet. So how do you actually break the cycle? Not with more pressure. With something that sounds almost backwards. Be kinder to yourself. In one study, researchers followed students across their exams and found that the ones who forgave themselves for procrastinating before the first exam actually procrastinated less before the next one. Read that again. Self-forgiveness reduced future procrastination. Because once you stop drowning in guilt, there's no painful feeling left to avoid, so there's nothing left to run from. From there, a few small shifts do more than any planner ever could. First, name the feeling. Before you reach for your phone, stop and ask, what is this task actually making me feel? Anxious? Bored? Not good enough? Just naming it out loud takes some of its power away, and it shows you what you're really dealing with. Second, shrink the start. You don't have to finish the task. You just have to begin it, for 2 minutes. Because motivation is not the thing that gets you started. Starting is usually the thing that creates motivation. Action comes first. The wanting follows. Third, make a plan your brain can't argue with. Not, I'll do it later, but a specific if-then. When I sit down after dinner, I will open the document and write one sentence. Psychologist Peter Gollwitzer found that these tiny if-then plans dramatically increase the odds you'll actually follow through, because you've already decided in advance, so there's no negotiation left in the moment. And finally, make your future self real. Picture them specifically. The version of you who wakes up tomorrow to a finished task instead of a dreaded one. You're not working for a stranger, you're working for you. Here's what I want you to take from all of this. The next time you catch yourself avoiding something, don't call yourself lazy. Don't reach for a harder schedule or a longer to-do list. Just understand what's really happening. A part of your brain felt something uncomfortable, and it tried to protect you the only way it knows how. You were never weak. You were never broken. You were just human, and now you know how the machine actually works. And once you can see the feeling hiding underneath the task, you stop fighting yourself, and you finally start working with your own mind. If this made you see yourself a little more clearly, you'll feel right at home here. This whole channel is about understanding why you do what you do. Stick around.